Yo, so I was staring at a squirrel the other day, right? Just watching this little dude sprint with the energy of 8 espressos, and it hit me. Why does he have to hop everywhere like a glitchy NPC? Like, if evolution is supposedly this genius engineer that's been cooking and adapting better versions through natural selection for billions of years, why didn't it just give him some sick 24-inch rims and a chrome axle? Like, imagine a squirrel hitting 60 on the sidewalk and just absolutely smoking a mail truck. But no, nature decided the wheels are apparently illegal, as I'll explain why later. And honestly, the reasons are way weirder than you'd think. Because we're talking about biological laws that make the IRS look like a chill group of guys who just want to hang out. First of all, we gotta talk about the wheeler trauma, because if you grew up in the 80s or accidentally clicked on the wrong link on YouTube, you know Return to Oz. Those creepy dudes with wheels instead of hands and feet that used to haunt my dreams. Like, that's basically nature's restraining order against the concept of rolling. The main reason we don't have biological Hot Wheels is the axle problem. Like, how do you even wire that? Because your body needs to pump blood and send move your leg signals through nerves, but if your foot is a wheel spinning 360 degrees constantly, those wires are getting tangled faster than your iPhone charger in a backpack. Like, you'd basically be a living knot within 5 minutes, which is a pretty midway to go at if we're being honest. You'd be trying to run from a tiger and your leg would just tie itself into a pretzel, and you'd be sitting there looking like a failed balloon animal while the tiger wonders if you're even worth the calories. But wiring is just one of these issues, and another one is the fact that wheels are actually kinda trash if you don't have a paved driveway. Like, think about it. The only reason we think wheels are the peak of technology is because we spent trillions of dollars flattening the earth with asphalt and concrete. If you take a Ferrari into the middle of a jagged mountain range, that car is basically a very expensive paperweight. But a mountain goat, that dude is parkouring on a 90-degree cliff like it's a flat Saturday, and he's just looking for some salt to lick. In the wild, legs are just the superior all-terrain package, and evolution is a stingy manager. If it's not making you better at surviving, it's getting cut from the budget. Like, I like the analogy that nature is like a picky boss in an HR department who keeps rejecting your requests. When you ask for biological hubcaps, they just look at the messy, rocky ground outside and say, denied, those would never work there. But while we're out here complaining that an elephant can't have wheels, there are actually bacteria that have literal rotary motors in their butts. Yes, I'm not even kidding. They have this thing called a flagellum that spins at like 100,000 RPM. It is basically a biological outboard motor with a stator and a rotor. Like, nature literally invented the engine before it invented the leg. But for some reason, we got bigger than a dust mite, and the wheels and motors department just closed down for renovation and never opened back up. It's like nature gave the cheat codes to the smallest guys in the room and told the rest of us to just walk it off. Which is crazy, because imagine if your dog could just spit his tail like a propeller and hit Mach 1 in the backyard. But even with those tiny motors, nature is still acting like a hater. Because sometimes she actually did have the wheel tech and just deleted it like a controversial tweet. Look at camels in North Africa and the Middle East. Back in the day, the Roman Empire was all about chariots and wagons. But by the 6th century, people basically said, nah, we're good, and went back to camels because they are the ultimate off-roaders. You see, they don't need roads, they don't need axles greased, and they carry more weight for less water. Sometimes you have humans realizing that the high-tech option is a massive hassle compared to what nature already built. It's like switching from a fancy electric scooter that breaks the second it sees a puddle back to a pair of beat-up Crocs that just get the job done. And evolution is quite the fan of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Speaking of things that aren't broken, you gotta wonder why nature's so scared of the periodic table. Like, we've got animals that can survive in boiling water and animals that can literally freeze solid and come back to life. But for some reason, no animal has ever evolved to use the uranium just sitting in the dirt. What I mean is, like, imagine a lizard that is a literal walking nuclear reactor. Something like he doesn't need to eat insects. He just licks a radioactive rock once a year and he's good to go. But instead, nature decided we all have to do this eating thing, which is such a massive chore. Like, I have to find food, chew it, and then pay taxes? If I was nuclear powered, I'd just be vibing in a cave glowing green and minding my business, but no. Evolution says that's too dangerous or biologically unstable, which sounds like a skill issue if you ask me. Since we're on the topic of being dangerous, where are the dragons? We have beetles that can literally spray boiling acid out of their rear ends, and we have eels that can tase you into the next dimension. So the hardware for a flamethrower is basically already in the catalog. You just need 2 glands, one for fuel like methane, and one for a catalyst, and boom, you're the king of the food chain. But evolution looked at that and said, nah, let's give the giraffe a long neck instead. Bleh, a long neck is cool for almost nothing, except maybe reaching salad, but fire would solve the lion being the undefeated king of the jungle problem way faster. Dragons would finally be a worthy opponent, you know what I mean? It's like nature's playing a video game and refuses to nerf the overpowered king's stats or put any points into the cool magic skill tree because it's too focused on the standard grass eater build. It's not just about the flashy magic though, because if you got the actual physics of the situation, which is the ultimate fun killer, because have you ever wondered why we don't have chickens the size of T-Rexes? Well, if you haven't, I'll also save you the time of finding the answer. It's because of this law that at first sight is the most no-shot Sherlock thing you've heard of today. The square cube law. Basically, if you double the size of an animal, it gets 4 times stronger, but 8 times heavier. So if you made a chicken the size of a house, its legs would literally explode under its own weight like wet toothpicks the second it tried to cluck. Gravity is just being a giant bully, making sure things stay regular sized and don't get too big for their boots. It's the same reason trees have a height limit at a certain point. Physics just says, I can't pump water any higher, bro. And the tree just stops because it's tired of fighting the laws of the universe. But wait, there's a loophole, because you ever notice how blue whales are basically the size of a city block and they're doing just fine? That's because they're cheating. Because water provides buoyancy, aka something like a turn-off gravity switch. In the ocean, you can be as chunky as you want because the water's holding you up like a giant liquid hug. This is also why we don't see giant insects anymore, because 300 million years ago, the air had way more oxygen, so bugs could breathe better through their weird skin holes and grow into bird-sized nightmares. Now the air's too thin for them, so now they're stuck being small enough for you to squish with a shoe. Which, honestly, thank God for that. Because a dragonfly with a 2-foot wingspan is not something I need to see while I'm trying to eat a taco. Actually, even the simple things are apparently too hard for nature to figure out once you leave the ocean. Look at coral reefs. They're basically the Manhattan of the sea. Full of life and skyscrapers and vibes, but the second you go into a freshwater river, it's just mud. There's no such thing as a freshwater coral reef, which makes no sense. Like you're telling me evolution figured out how to build a giant calcium carbonate city in salt water, but couldn't figure out how to do it in a lake? It's like nature has a saltwater only contract that it's too scared to break, leaving the rivers to be the suburbs of the biological world where nothing cool ever happens and everyone just miserably eats algae in silence. While the rivers are stuck in the suburbs, land animals are stuck with the weirdest rule ever. Tell me if you disagree, which is the even number law. Gee, what is that? I was afraid you'd never ask. Well, if you didn't, then I know what to say to you, man. Anyways, I digress. Have you ever noticed that everything with legs has an even number of them? It's always 2, 4, 6, 8, or like 1,000 if you're a millipede. But you'll never find a wild mammal with 3 or 5 legs, because nature's obsessed with bilateral symmetry, which is just a fancy way of saying I want both sides to look the same in the mirror. It's like nature has OCD, and if one side has 2 legs and the other side only has 1, it just throws the whole organism in the trash and starts over. Can't the side with fewer legs just have stronger legs to balance itself out? No, we're all just copy-pasted versions of ourselves split down the middle, which is why we'll never see a 5-legged elephant that uses the middle leg as a kickstand, even though that would be objectively hilarious and very practical for naps. Trying to find a 3-legged creature is like trying to find an honest politician. It's not just in the source code, and since our ancestors were basically flatworms that decided having a left and right side was the move, we're stuck with even numbers. Even if you tried to grow a 3rd leg in the middle, you'd probably just trip yourself over and look like a tripod that's given up on life. It's kind of like how nature absolutely refuses to give us green mammals. Like, think about it. Most of the world is green leaves and grass, so if you're a sloth or deer, being green would be the ultimate camouflage. But instead, they're all brown and gray, which is basically eat me red to a predator with good eyes. The only reason sloths sometimes look green is because they're so slow that actual moss grows on them. Yeah, I too found that really funny when I first learned that was the reason why. Like, being so lazy, your clothes start to grow their own ecosystem. Even though evolution has been staring at green pants for millions of years, It's like a painter who has every color except the one they actually need to finish the masterpiece. I guess it either just didn't realize it could make green fur for animals or simply didn't want them to get good things in life. Now, the funniest missing trait has got to be the vegetarian snake, because hear me out. There are thousands of snake species, and every single one of them woke up and chose violence. Like, did you realize that they all eat meat? Meanwhile, their cousins, the lizards, are out here munching on hibiscus flowers and vibing in the sun. You'd think at least one snake would realize that grass doesn't run away or bite back, but no. It's likely because their entire digestive system is a hyperprocessor for protein, and switching to salad would be like trying to run a diesel truck on vegetable oil without a conversion kit. You're just gonna stall out and die in a bush looking real confused. But the real missed opportunity is the biological radio. Like, our brains are literally electrical machines. We're out here sending impulses through our nerves every millisecond, so why can't we just broadcast that? Imagine instead of texting, you just vibrated a thought to your homie across the room like a biological Wi-Fi router built into your skull. Some fish can sense electric fields, so the receiver technology is already out there. But nature decided that talking with our mouths like cavemen was peak communication. It's honestly disrespectful that I have to use a physical device made out of glass and metal to do what my brain should be able to do naturally if evolution wasn't such a gatekeeper. Speaking of budget cuts, evolution doesn't actually have a vision board. It's more like a guy trying to fix a plane engine while the plane's currently crashing, and he's only allowed to use a screwdriver he found in a dumpster. This is what the scientists call fitness landscape, which sounds like a gym name or a supplement brand, but it's actually the reason you can't have laser eyes or machine gun arms. Imagine a map with a bunch of hills, and the top of the hill is peak survival. And the rule is you can only move uphill. If you're a zebra and you want a machine gun to deal with lions, you can't just spawn one. You need to grow a weird, fleshy nub that doesn't do anything. That nub costs energy to grow, and since that halfway gun doesn't shoot anything yet, you're actually less fit than the zebra who just spent that energy on running faster or looking slightly more intimidating. If you didn't get that, let me put it in another way. Basically walked into a valley and got eaten before you could reach the laser hill. Now you're just a snack with a weird bump on your shoulder. The absolute best reason we don't see these crazy traits like wheels or humans with wings or elephants with jetpacks is because evolution is a local optimizer. It takes what you already have and just tweaks it slightly. Your arm is just a modified fish fin, and a bat's wing is just a hand with really long, skinny fingers with some skin stretched over it. Like, for a human to grow wings without losing their arms, we need a mutation in our Hox genes to sprout an entirely new set of limbs. It's like trying to win the lottery while being struck by lightning on a Tuesday. It could happen, but nature usually just looks at the cost-to-benefit ratio and decides having 2 arms and no wings is good enough for us to keep paying taxes and scrolling through social media. The real kicker, though, the thing that proves that nature knows how to build mechanical parts but just denies them to the big guys, is this tiny insect called the Issus coleoptratus. This little dude has literal, actual mechanical gears in its back legs, like, I'm talking interlocking teeth that rotate together to make sure it jumps straight, which is basically the same technology in your car's transmission. We thought humans invented the gear, but this bug has been rocking them since before we even figured out how to use fire. Like, nature literally has the blueprints for mechanical engineering, but only gave it to a bug the size of a fingernail. It's like finding out your landlord has a Lambo in his garage but makes you ride a tricycle to work. Nature's just holding out on us, like crows holding and passing down a generational grudge against someone who shooed it away, keeping the hardware for small fry and giving the rest of us soft tissue that breaks if we sit down too fast. But we are living in a world of good enough designs. We don't have wheels because legs work on mud. We don't have wings because we're too heavy and lazy. And we don't have laser zebras because the alpha version of the laser was a useless meat lump that just got in the way. It's kind of humbling, really. We aren't the peak of engineering, more like the version that didn't crash the engine during the race. It's just that it doesn't sit right with me how we click on these videos expecting to hear how cool animals are. But honestly, today is about how much of a hater nature is, because there are things that should exist that are just forbidden, like the administrative leave of biology. But maybe the problem this whole time isn't with nature's shortcomings, it's with our greed. Or is it just me? Come on, you were entertaining these questions with me for so long, and now when the opportunity arises, you just point your finger at your favorite YouTuber in the shape of an eye? That's how it's gonna be, huh? I'm watching you. Okay, but as I was saying, next time you wonder why you don't have wheels or why you can't breathe fire, Just remember that Nature's basically a developer that refuses to release the DLC we actually want. And we're all just stuck playing the base game where the only upgrades we get are slightly better cholesterol or a different shaped nose. It's a rigged system. But hey, if we did have wheels, the traffic in LA would just be a bunch of elephants stuck on the 405, so maybe we dodged the bullet here.